Hello, everybody. Welcome to Trading Together. I'm Mel Gacee. This is the FOMC edition of Trading Together. So if you're here, welcome and thank you for joining. We are going to get the FOMC announcement here shortly. And as we've discussed many times, chances are pretty high that we're not going to get a cut or a hike. We're going to put the rates on pause, which is pretty much the consensus of the market, right? So chances are we probably won't get any type of change in the rate. But what we will get is an FOMC statement, which kind of outlines what everybody is thinking on the committee. And then we will get a press conference at 2:30. So we're going to trade that together here. Sometimes FOMC can be volatile. And if you haven't traded it before, then it can be a little overwhelming. So that's why I'm here to kind of walk you through that and what that looks like. And it might be a big nothing burger, you never know. But usually we do see some volatility with the FOMC announcements. So with that being said, let's take a look at these charts and what we've done today. A whole lot of nothing. That's what we've done today, a whole lot of nothing. We did accomplish something. We made a brand new all-time high. So we came up 15 minutes after the open and we hit 7,000. That is the big level that everyone's been waiting for. We've been seeing that on the charts for days and weeks. We've been watching that 7,000 level grow. So that is still has been a big target and did get hit today. So if you take a look at the charts here is where we were at the open right in here. This is where we opened with this push. And then this push right here is where we hit the all-time high. Now you can't see it right here because this is the ES chart. That's the futures. But the S&P 500, the SPX, you'll see. In fact, let's switch over there and you'll see that we in fact hit 7,002 right there, right shortly after the open. See that little push there? And there it is. 7,002 is our new all-time high. We are now at 7,000 on the index. Now we did pull back. So immediately after we hit this high, boom, we retraced basically 30 points, right to the bottom here, roughly 35 points. And ever since we hit that bottom, we've been pulling sideways. Typical FOMC behavior, lots of nothingness, lots of sideways motion. That's what we're getting right now. So we are going to be watching for the spikes or the drops that happen in a volatile way. Now, speaking of volatility, the VIX index, that's the volatility index, is slightly elevated. So we're up about 2% on the VIX today. That's not huge, but it has been up a little higher. So let's pull back here and you can see what the VIX did today. We hit a high at 17.8, right basically when we hit the low. So 11:55 Eastern. And boom, there's our low, 11:55 Eastern. So this is what the VIX does. It runs inverse to the market. When the market is nervous, the VIX will go up. When the market is feeling happy, the VIX will come down. They usually run inverse to each other. So the VIX kind of did this climb, which is corresponding to this drop. And then since then, it's been dropping. But I will say the market really hasn't been climbing at the same rate. So we see this big climb all day long. We climbed right up to the top here. We hit 11:55 Eastern, and we've really been sinking ever since. But the market hasn't really been sinking ever since. We hit the bottom here. Climbing. The market did come up here, so we did match this right here. So this dip right here down to 1220 matches, right? So we see this climb to 1220. We see this sink to 1220. That's normal. Then we see the VIX climb back up again. That's okay. We came back down right here till at 12:34 Eastern. Is that right? Is that 12:34 Eastern? Yeah. 12:34 Eastern, we can see right there the top, right? So a lower top, but the same bottom. So that's interesting. And then we just really continued down, but have we really continued up? Not really. We're kind of pulling sideways. So there's a little bit of divergence happening. So we'll have to see with the VIX kind of falling like this, are we going to get a spring to the upside, or is the VIX going to pop up and then we get a big dump to the downside? That can happen as well. But as of the last several, I'm going to say last 2 hours, we've got this big climb, this big drop, but really by and large, we've just been right in the middle of this range, not doing anything. So the market is waiting for FOMC. So we will see. James Holston, hello, good to see you. So yeah, really just kind of pulling sideways right now, not much of anything happening. And that's very, like I said, very typical for FOMC days. We usually just pull sideways. And even with this drop, yeah, we came down 30 points, but that's just not that big of a drop. It is a drop, but it's not that significant. So now we're just going to wait until 2 or 2:30. So either we'll get some movement from the FOMC statement, which comes out at 2, or I should say 2 Eastern. Either we'll get some movement from that, or the market will wait for 2:30 for the press conference. Either way, the market's going to be waiting for the press conference, but we could see movement with the statement. So that's one thing. And I'm going to see if there is a FOMC live press conference. All right. Got that up here. And if you are trading anything right now, if anybody, hello, Audrey. Hello, Gavilan. Good to see you again. Audrey, how have your trades been since this morning? I'm still holding it, Audrey, which is unusual for me. I don't usually hold trades this long, but with this, important data coming, I'm willing to give it until FOMC. But thank you for asking, Audrey. How have your trades been? So what I was going to say is if anybody is in any positions, whether you're long or short, if you're in them, I would recommend setting a limit order for your sell for profit. Maybe not up to you, maybe not a stop. Because if we do get a big spike, a big quick spike, you your order will trigger and you'll get out. If you try to do it by just watching and jumping out and it just does this ping, 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 you're going to have a hard time with that. So I would recommend if you're holding anything, set your limit order for profit. Don't necessarily set your stop, although it's dangerous not to also on a day like today. Just be careful with that because it can ping you right out. So just be careful is what I'm saying. If you're in anything, set your limits. All right. So got just a couple of more minutes for the statement. And I do need to go get my data up so I can see what happens. Got that. All right. I've got my economic calendar. I've got my FOMC live press conference. Let's see. Well, I did. Where did it go? It went away. There it is. And that's kind of annoying. Does that irritate you guys? It's got a little, I don't know, techno music or whatever it is. Hopefully you guys are okay with that because I'll be able to hear it when it gets started. Well, actually, I should probably not. I'm going to put the speaker off right now because we've got a half an hour. I don't know if I want to listen to that for half an hour. All right, Audrey, off and on, overall down, but nothing too scary. Okay, Audrey, not bad at all, and not bad for an FOMC day. These days are challenging to trade, and my gut told me to stay out. So that trade that I'm in would have been best if I just stayed out because I'm aware of how FOMC days go. So I probably just should have avoided any trading until the actual announcement. However, here I am. If you're here and you haven't said hi, drop your name in the chat, say hi, ask any questions. This is the time. This is time to get your questions out there. You want to understand more about FOMC. Drop those questions. All right, Gavilan, in from this morning, down 30%. Yep, same, Gavilan, down about 30%. I'm right there with you. Gavilan, set your limit just in case we get a spike at the statement release or at the press conference. Just make sure that, if we do get a nice spike up there, that boom, we're out. That would be great. All right, Audrey, taking a handful of notes from today. Hopeful tomorrow I'll make better decisions. You will. It's a learning process. It's trading. Anyone who tells you that it's easy, if you watch these YouTubers, with their Lamborghinis saying, I made 15,000 in 10 minutes today. Maybe that's true. But what they don't tell you is it took them 10 years to get there, right? It's not super easy. It's not as easy as they make it sound. Now, I still love trading. To me, it's one of the last great frontiers for wealth building. That's how I see it. So I'm willing to put the time in and the hours. But anyone who makes it seem like it's easy, that's not true. It's not. It's a big learning curve, and you're doing great, Audrey. So hang in there. All right, looks like we're getting some jumpiness here. Let's see what happens. We got the statement. And initial reaction is just a little bit of movement, not a ton. All right. Looks like a little bit of upward movement here. There we go. All right, nice little jump there. Gavilan, we are down about 24% right now, so not horrible. I don't know if you're in that call with me, James, but it is an averaged trade. So we did get a nice move up here. So that's something. Let's see if we can continue that. It's nothing major, no big moves yet. Still below the flat line. In other words, we're still red right now. All right, a little bit of pull down there. All right, Gavilan, where should you set it at? You can set it at break even. You can set it at profits. I have mine set at 10%, but I won't wait for 10%. If I see, even a break even, I'll jump out. But all right, we've got a downward bar here. Back to this bottom. Yeah, your limit, Gavilan, that's what I'm saying. You can set it at a profit. You can set it at break even. Okay, that's an icky drop. We don't like that. Getting a downward move here. Down 13. So the initial response isn't always the final response. So sometimes you'll see this toggling back and forth. So that's what I'm watching right now is to see if we're going to move up and down, or is this an actual downward move? Volume did increase on that one. Let me get back to my ES. All right. Little tiny move up. And we did get a bounce on the VIX there. So not a huge move at the statement, not a lot happening right now. All right, so of course the Fed's held the interest rates steady. All right, so the Federal Committee eased its concerns about the labor market. Available indicators suggest that economic activity has been expanding at a solid pace. This is from the Fed. Job gains have remained low, and unemployment has shown some signs of stabilization. Somewhat elevated. That's from the Feds. The statement erased a clause indicating that the committee saw a higher risk market and employment more in balance. There was little in the way of guidance about what's coming next. We're getting a little climb back into the range here. Markets expecting the Fed to wait until at least June before adjusting the benchmark rate again. Kind of what we had talked about earlier today. They probably won't adjust until at least June. So kind of back inside this range, but on the lower side. Looking a little weak right now. It's a little bit weak. So if they don't see labor as much of a worry as they did before, that would mean that they're going to take a slower approach to lowering interest rates. The market doesn't like that. Now, we don't want them lowering rates because labor is having a big issue. So that's a good news, bad news kind of scenario. The market doesn't want to see, the economy tumble or labor struggle, but it does like the free money. So usually anything that slows the interest rate reductions, the market doesn't usually love. So right now we're not getting a super strong upward response yet, but nothing pushing us down either. There were some dissenters. Stephen Moran, now that was a President Trump appointee, and Christopher Waller voted against holding, both advocating another quarter-point rate cut. Both of those were appointed by Trump. I didn't know Waller was, but I knew Moran was. With Moran filling an unexpected board seat in September, Waller appointed during Trump's first term. Okay, that makes sense. Moran's term expires Saturday, while Waller interviewed for the Fed chair's job, but is considered a long shot. Okay. Jeremy Powell, that's the chair. He has 2 more meetings before his term ends. He ends in May. His term does. I'm just kind of skimming this article. So, of course, we're seeing that inflation has been a little bit more of a problem than we wanted it to be. So that's been a little bit more challenging. We are off the 40-year highs that we had back in 2022, but the rate is still running close to 3%. The Fed would love to see a 2% inflation rate. Now, of course, you and me and the average citizen, we know inflation's not running at 3%. Good grief. We know how much we pay at the grocery store. It's way more than that. But that's what the data says. All right, getting a little push here. This is better. Let's see if we can. This yellow line here is our overnight low. So we've stayed under it for a long time, the last couple of hours. But let's see if we can push up through it here. That would be great. So the futures market for rates for the FOMC is pricing in 2 rate reductions in 2026, none in 2027, regardless of who the next Fed chair is. The predictions are pointing to Rick Reeder. He's the BlackRock bond guy, and he will probably be the next chair, is what it looks like. And he's highly respected in the markets. Okay, so we are making a little move up here. That's good. We like that. Let's see if we can get enough of a climb to get out of this trade. That would make my day. So not a real big reaction. We see it here, right? We see this pop, drop, and come back up. So not a huge reaction. Sometimes we see huge spikes and drops. And of course, we haven't had the press conference yet, so that could create some more fireworks. And that will be coming in about 20 minutes. So in the meantime, we may settle back into this range. Let's see what happens. Let's see what the market thinks about the statement. So far, it's kind of a nothing burger. And I'll start the press conference video so you guys can hear it in the background whenever they get ready to speak. Like I said, we've got 20 minutes. So we could sit and chop here for 20 minutes. Let's see what happens. And like I said, sometimes the initial reaction gets retraced. That happens a lot. So we got an initial reaction up and then down, and now back to the middle. Kind of Goldilocks, right? This one's too hot. This one's too cold. This one's in the middle. So that's kind of what's happening right now. Just a middle range reaction. The VIX, however, continues to be moving down. So that's kind of interesting, right? If we come back and look at the VIX, it's still dropping while the market, it's climbing a little bit, but really not much. We're making a low right here. So let's see if VIX continues to drop. We're at 16.5 on the VIX. If it continues to drop, we will see this market continue to slowly rise. Or we should. All right, back to the overnight low. Let's pop up through that. I'd like to see us try and hit the high that we hit right here at the statement announcement. I'm not going to take any trades yet unless I see a significant break of this range. So I'm going to wait on that. Even though it looks a little bit bullish right now, we're still back to this range. So I'm going to wait a little bit. It's right here, just still sitting at the overnight low. Now it looks like the VIX could be dropping a little bit more. Let's see. So you can see we've hit this high a few times in the last hour, hour and a half. We hit it here, we hit it here. We kind of popped up through it at the statement, and we're at it again right here. We haven't quite hit it, but we're real close. And it's all right here at this overnight low. That's the bar right now. So we've just kind of been toggling over and under it. So we'll see what kind of questions Jeremy Powell gets during the press conference. Usually I'll be honest, usually the market does not like what he has to say. So sometimes when he speaks, he can tank the market. The market usually doesn't like what he has to say. So we'll see. Hopefully he'll be a little bit more dovish, I hope. All right, that VIX still coming down a little here. And a little bounce right there on this one. All right, same bat time, same bat channel. None of you guys remember that. I know it. I know it. That was the old Batman. The old Batman TV show. All right. In other news, UNH, after a nasty rout yesterday, is recovering a little bit today, up about 4%. So that's nice. That's good to see. It's recovering a bit because that was a nasty drop for UNH yesterday, almost 20% on these on this Medicaid. The government came out saying we're not increasing Medicaid payouts. We are, I think it was like 0.9% or something. And I think the industry was expecting like 4%, 5% increase. And so healthcare in general tumbled, but UNH really relies on Medicaid a lot. So that really, and that plus earnings just sent UNH through the basement. So that was rough, but it is getting a nice little pullback today. Pull up retracement. Well, more of the same, folks. Super boring. Nothing burger on this statement for sure. We'll take a quick look at the volumes and see what kind of volumes we have. We've still got some overhead volume at 700, at the 700 strike on SPY. Biggest volume is sitting right here at the 695 puts. So that's the biggest volume. Next biggest is the 697 calls, which is where I happen to be sitting. And then the 698 calls and 696 calls. So more volume stacked up definitely on the call side than the put side. I'm going to go check gamma real quick. We are still in positive gamma, even though all day today we have been in this sinking mode, sinking sideways mode. We are still sitting in positive gamma, not by a lot. We're only in positive gamma by about 500 million. That's not a lot, believe it or not. We're usually measuring gamma in the billions, but we're sitting at a little bit of positive gamma with the call wall still at 700. So that's interesting. That doesn't mean we have to hit that today, but it means it's a possibility. And with volume saying that it's a possibility, it's a possibility. We also have some growing volume at the 690 put strike, so that would not be good. That's a good 40, 50 points below us. All right, a little bit of negative behavior happening here. Got about 12 minutes for the press conference. And of course, as you guys already know, we talked about this morning. We've got big earnings tonight, big earnings tonight. Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla all reporting after the bell. That's going to move the market very, very significantly as well. So right now, Meta is down about 0.3%, not bad, just kind of below its flat line. Microsoft, where is Microsoft? Right there, just over its flat line, about 0.14%. Okay, there's a little move upward. That's refreshing. Thank you. So Microsoft up just a little bit over its flat line. Meta down just a little bit below its flat line, and Tesla just up about 0.8%. So Tesla kind of doing better than everybody else. I've heard some rumors that Tesla probably will not do well in earnings. So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm hearing from the people I listen to, that Tesla might not do as well as we think. So, all right, there's our little push up here, getting back to our overnight low. Still ranging. Taylor, hello. It's so good to see you. Oh, wow. Thanks for joining. I appreciate seeing you here. We are trading the FOMC announcement and press conference. So usually I'm here at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you'll have to forgive me because some of my videos say 9 a.m. Eastern, but no, it's 11 a.m. Eastern that I'm trading here every day, Monday through Friday for an hour. But I have a special edition today to walk with you all through the FOMC trade. So we're watching it. We got the FOMC statement right here at 2 Eastern. And then we got a quick little drop and a pull back up, and mostly still sitting in this range. So kind of a nothing burger on the statement. The Fed's left rates untouched, and looks like they're not super worried about labor, which means they'll probably take more of a relaxed approach to cutting rates. So that's kind of what the statement was saying. But what we have coming is the press conference. That's coming up in about 9 minutes. So I will play that on my other monitors so we can kind of listen. It's pretty dry, but we will see what Fed Chair Powell has to say, and we'll see if that moves the market. Again, sometimes, occasionally, it's a nothing burger, but most of the time we do see fireworks with FOMC. So we'll wait and see what we get at the press conference. And then what I was saying just a few minutes ago is the other big market mover is going to be Meta, Microsoft, and Tesla reporting earnings tonight. So those will happen after the bell. And we will see, you'll see the futures. If you guys watch futures, so right here, /ES is the ticker for the SPX, the S&P 500 futures. That's the ticker on Thinkorswim. I think it can change from platform to platform, but for Thinkorswim, it's under /ES. So if you're interested in what happens after hours, you can watch the futures, you can watch the SPY, and you'll be able to see how the index responds to Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla earnings, and it will respond. So we will see what we get. I think earnings, they've all kind of been hitting it out of the park for the last several quarters. But it's hard to keep going at that same pace. Are we going to get another big win on earnings, or is it time for us to start maybe deflating this tech bubble a little bit? I don't know. We'll see. But if you're interested, that's where to see it. You can also see if you have your charts set to extended hours, you can watch Meta, you can watch Microsoft and Tesla, and just see what they do in the extended hours trade or movement. All right. So, yep, still ranging here, just sitting under, I call it the flat line. It's the difference between today's open and yesterday's close. So we're down about 7 points from yesterday's close. So that's kind of where we've been sitting for the past couple of hours, just nothing, nowhere land. And so let's see what we get coming into the press conference, 7 more minutes. Yeah, so in the meantime, we were talking about Meta, Microsoft, and Tesla. Nobody's really performing super strong today, but that's in keeping with what the main market in general is doing, just pulling sideways. But not a huge performance from Tesla, Microsoft, or Meta. They're all kind of just meh, just kind of moving sideways, just kind of over and under their flat line. All right, getting a little push up here. This yellow line is the overnight low, and that is last night's pre-market trading. So I mark that off every day on my charts. So this yellow line right here represents the overnight low. That happened pre-market, and this has been the area of contention for hours. We've just been bumping our heads on this level and getting knocked down every time, all for hours, right? We popped over it a little bit here and boom, under it. A little over it, under it, over it, under it. And then a pop right there at the statement and then under it. And then just a little peak right here and a little peak right here. So right now that's capping the top of our range. I don't expect it to move until we get the press conference. And even then, if Powell doesn't say anything interesting, anything different, we may see it pull sideways. Usually, I will say the market responds when Powell speaks. And usually they don't like what he has to say. So I'm hoping he'll be a little bit dovish today. Dovish meaning we'd like to see him leaning in the direction of more rate cuts, just because that's what the market wants to see. That's what the market likes to see. That's going to equate to quantitative easing and free money flowing back into the system. And that money always finds its way into the stock market. The stock market loves that. So even when, we, the consumer, can kind of look at the economy and say, ugh, it sucks, the market doesn't care. The market wants the free money, and it keeps going up because that money funnels its way right into the hands of the people that are making the investments. All right, that was a cute little pop right there. Let's see if we can keep going. We have this little high that was made right here at the statement. That came up to 695.6 on the SPY. So let's see if we can pop back up there again. VIX is continuing to move down. So while we see the market moving sideways, VIX is making tiny steps downward. That's a little bit of a divergence. I mean, you can see the low, the higher low, it's tiny. So you can sort of see that. But to me, it looks a little bit more like VIX is diverging from this movement here. VIX is giving us a little bit of a drop. And as you know, as the VIX drops, the market is supposed to rise. Well, right now it's been moving sideways. So we've got about 3 more minutes until Fed Chair Powell speaks. I'm going to go ahead and start the video, even though he's not speaking yet, because it had that wonky techno music. But let's go ahead and start it. There we go. Where are we sitting right now with that music? I don't know, on hold maybe. All right. So he's going to start speaking, hopefully, right at 2:30. He's usually pretty good about that, being on time. He likes his purple tie. He likes to say that he is not political. I think that is hogwash. I think he is political. He likes to say that the Fed is independent, non-political, and yeah, I think that he is political. He doesn't like Trump. I think he tries to. I don't know. I could be wrong. I think sometimes he says things just to make the market go down because he knows that Trump doesn't like it. I'm joking, but he does absolutely not like Trump, and Trump doesn't like him. So there is that. All right, let's see here if we can push up over this overnight high before we start this conference. That would be nice. Oh, they're quieting the music. That's nice. No, it's a new loop. It's a new loop. All right. So sitting right here at SPX 69.75. So remember, the high today was 7,002. Remember, we have volume overhead on the SPY at 700. So that's a $5 difference overhead. So if the SPY jumps up and hits 700, if it does, it will be the equivalent of a 50-point move on the SPX. All right, here's a little downward move here. Not come down just a bit. Okay. All right, that's a good sized bar there. He hasn't even begun speaking that I know of. There it is. All right, it's about to start. You see all the news guys in there. All right, James saying they're front running. Could be, James. It could be. Let's see what happens here. Oh, he's right on time. And he's wearing his purple tie. Shocker. So keep your eye on the VIX here. It's dropped rather significantly. So watch that. Sorry about that. No. Right, James? Has it served the people? I think so. Hi, Stockwatch. Okay, so we're getting a push now up over the VWAP. It's because we're getting close to the end and he hasn't said anything damaging yet. All right, so this is the last question. Yeah, good question on the metals. All right. So that sounds like the end. And basically, what I got from that is we're in a decent place. The balance of the dual mandate. So labor heading into a bad direction is actually he's saying that we're moving into a better position with labor. He's also saying inflation has also come under control a little bit. He talked about the PCE at 3%, and mostly the core PCE, and he's mostly saying that is tariff related, and that they expect that to pass through hopefully by mid-year. So he's saying that these two goals, that they're still in tension, but the tension is less. So he's not saying we're heading into any kind of an expedited rate cut cycle, but he also was clear to say we're not, it's nobody's base case to hike rates. So that's also good. He definitely avoided all of the conversation about the court, right? So Lisa Cook is a governor that Trump fired for some, what they're saying, some shady dealings with her mortgage fraud or something to that effect. So that case is now at the Supreme Court, and it's what they're looking at is, the independence of the Fed, and does this infringe on the independence of the Fed when you have an administration kind of going after some of these Fed governors. Also, Fed Chair Powell himself is in a case where he's being accused of misappropriation of funds, because he had, a huge multi-billion, not million, $1 billion renovation to the offices, to the Fed offices. So he is also being scrutinized. And of course, everybody is trying to see through that and say, well, this is President Trump imposing his basically ideology onto the Fed by kind of going after some of these people, to see if he can get sway over the Fed. That's kind of what the case is about. So he was absolutely not responding to any of that, which of course I would think he can't, right? If he's if he's involved. They asked about the appropriateness of him going to Lisa Cook's arguments, and so he was, basically defending that. But he kept trying to steer it back to, this, why are we here? Let's talk about the rates. Let's talk about the economy. And basically that is what he said. Labor is easing. Inflation is still slightly elevated. These goals are not quite as in tension as they were. So we're not quite as worried about labor as we were. But he did say, if labor starts to spin out of control, that is certainly a case for cutting. And he also, is hopeful about inflation coming down because he's pinning some of this on tariffs. So basically, that's kind of what I got out of it. The market's not really responding. He didn't say anything damaging, but he didn't say anything really super hopeful either. I think the best case that I got out of it is, we're not really interested in cutting or in hiking. But we're really not interested in cutting either. And that's kind of what I got out of it, unless things change. And of course, he always reserves the right to be data dependent. And that's what he's saying. We're going to keep watching the data. We had the government shut down. It did affect data, but we're watching that. And as we see data, it should get better because the shutdown, that data has been less and less affected. And so he's expecting that data will, be less affected by the government shutdown. And that is how the board is going to be making their decisions. Now, there were some dissenters, but he did say there was broad-based support for keeping the rates where they're at. And again, the market's already kind of decided that we are not going to get a rate cut, if we get one at all, the market is priced in 2 rate cuts. Now, what we're going to have to do is see there's the tool out there. It's called the CME Fed Watch tool. So after today's press conference, I'm going to take a look at that and see if those odds have shifted. But as of prior to the press conference, the market has been pricing in 2 more rate cuts before the end of the year. So that's where we're sitting on that. So the market has slowly been climbing during the conference. So you can see we had the little wobblies here right at the statement, and then just a kind of slow climb, and we're watching the VIX kind of slowly drop. So I think we can still climb. In answer to your question, Suresh, you're in 697 calls. I'm in calls as well. We've only got about a half an hour before the end of the market. So, I'm going to wait just a little bit and see if the market will continue to climb, but we don't have a lot of theta has really chewed into those as we've waited for this press conference. So, if you're at 50 or less, you can take that stop. If we don't continue to climb, I will take that stop. But I'm going to watch for the next few minutes and see if we continue this kind of slow climb up. Right now, we are up about 4 points from yesterday's close. I call that the flat line. So we're up about 4 or 5 points and still getting a slow rise here. If we get any kind of turbulence, I'm probably going to pull the plug on my calls. All right. Let's see. Audrey's saying breaking over the VWAP could have held those calls. Just like I said, Audrey, I think you did the right thing because the theta has really, the time decay has really affected these calls. So they're not looking so good. Mine are about 50% down. So I will probably wind up taking that stop if we get any kind of a sudden move downward. As long as we continue a little bit of a grind here, I'm going to give it some more time. But of course, with a half an hour left in the day, we don't have there's not a whole lot of theta left, not much at all. All right, Stock Watch. Thanks, Mel. Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Now, could we take calls right now? Yes, I think we could. I'm going to take a look here at the MACD. It's looking, when you see the MACD with the bars very tiny, or you see the 2 lines, the signal line and the average line, kind of just next to each other, usually that's a sign of very slow motion, not too much momentum, just kind of sideways action. So that's kind of what we've been seeing for some time. But again, we are getting a slow climb. So I'm watching this climb, and it's pretty slow. So if we were to take any kind of trades right now, we wouldn't take today's expiration. We would take tomorrow's expiration just to give us some more time for the theta, right? You don't want to take today's expiration unless we're getting a wild move. You don't want to take today's expiration with a half an hour out. All right, so I am actually probably going to go ahead and cut these calls myself. Let's see here. Let's take a look at these charts. Yep. I think we could slowly climb. I think the VIX is dropping, but I'm going to cut these trades, this particular trade, because it's just, we don't have much time left in the day. So let's see if we can get one more little push up here. That would help. But not really today for FOMC has been a pretty big nothing burger. Now, are we going to get, some sort of wild movement at the end of the day? We could, but I'm not going to hold out for that. I'm not going to wait for that. All right. So I am out of my trade. I'm going to go ahead and close this trade. All right. Now, as far as taking a trade for the rest of today, the movement is a little small. We're just kind of over under the VWAP here. So I'm not looking at a trade right this minute. I think if we could come back up and push through the VWAP, I'd be willing to take a short call trade. But right now, yeah, it was for an FOMC day. It's been very, very peaceful, very peaceful. So yeah, so I'm gonna wait and see if we get a push up through the VWAP, and then we will potentially take another trade. James, will I swing a call into tomorrow AM? It's possible, James, because we do still have the 700 strike overhead. So if we look at the overall gamma, we do still have 700 at the 700 call wall. And we've got a lot of volume there too. So let's take another look at that. Here's 700 right here. So it's got a good bit of volume here. Let's look at tomorrow's volume on that strike. It's just average. We've got a lot of volume for tomorrow at the 695 put side, which is pretty much where we're sitting right now. And that is the highest volume, is the 695 puts on the put side. And some volume on the call side as well, but that 700 strike is just it's about half of what the put side is. So basically, we could chance it. At this point, it would be a bit of a lotto. So I don't know that I'm going to take it. I'm going to watch the close. Let's watch and see where we close today. There is a possibility that I would hold a call for tomorrow, James, but it's a great question. At this point, I'm going to wait and see how we close. All right. Well, guys, not much action today, but it was fun listening to the press conference with you. I hope that it made some sense to you. I hope I was able to clarify it a little bit. And right now, I'm not going to trade any puts, but if it does come back up through the VWAP and the MACD rolls over, I will take some calls. And James asking if I would hold them over into tomorrow. If I got into a trade right now, I would have to take tomorrow's expiration. And if it didn't play out, I might consider it, James. So thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it and hope it was helpful for you. I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. And forgive me because on some of my videos, I keep saying 9 a.m. Eastern, and that is not true. It's 9 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Eastern. All right, Gavilan, you have a great day as well. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.